so true. With stories of greatness we pursue. Welcome to Inner Goat.
Welcome to Inner Goat Podcast. We are very excited about the guest we have here right now with us. His name is Jakob Frank. Jakob has immersed himself in the entrepreneurial ecosystems of various African countries like Ghana, Nigeria, Ethiopia. And he's a real expert also in building connections with people from those countries. I'm really happy to see what he's going to talk about and how he has learned from various ecosystems. Jakob.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's so nice to see you again. To begin with, because we have a lot of people in the audience, perhaps, that don't know everything about the various African countries and the ecosystems there. And since you have lived in Ghana and in Nigeria and in Ethiopia and also in Kenya, what is the difference between those ecosystems? How do they differ from each other?
Yeah, that's a big question. These four countries are all huge, and I've only lived there for a year each, so I can only tell you my impression.
Mm-hmm.
They differ in so many ways. When it comes to food, music, the environment, religion, like they couldn't be more different. For me, what was most exciting was the different ecosystems, the different way they do business, they innovate. In Nigeria, where I spent the most time, and the most time also with the startup ecosystem, I think it's very special that Nigeria has localized its entire ecosystem. So when it comes to accelerators, investors, mentors, it's very local. And compared to, for example, Ethiopia or Kenya, there's more international influence from development institutions, foreign money, and that shapes an ecosystem differently than if it's mostly through local actors.
Mm-hmm.
And that has, I've learned a lot in that time when I was there. I think the entrepreneurial ecosystem there is so much full of energy, the entrepreneurial mindset, the outcome-oriented mentality. And I think what impressed me the most is the constant readjustment to changing situations. Entrepreneurs have to constantly adapt to how the markets are developing. And here in Germany, it's more constant,
Mm-hmm.
which can be advantageous, but sometimes also disadvantageous as a startup, because you somehow need to prove that you're better than what's already existing or your product.
When you say like foreign money or foreign influence, maybe what do you mean exactly by saying that?
I mean, it's normal that ecosystems, especially startup ecosystems, are very international. We have a very international world, and the African ecosystem, or not the African ecosystem, but certain ecosystems in Africa have attracted a lot of attention. And Kenya is, for example, one of the ecosystems that has really attracted a lot of foreigners. Might it be through development institutions, through foreign capital, that are excited about the idea that startups solve the problems of the countries. And some of these foreign investors, they integrate a lot of social and environmental goals, which is good, but it also forces the company to go into a certain direction that they might not want to go to. But if you have someone who is from Kenya or who's from the region, they have a bit more understanding of how the situation, how the market is on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, in my experience, it's better to listen to people who are there and who have lived there for a long time, because they know better how to address the problems.
Maybe to give you a more different question. If I would give you 100,000 euros right now, in which ecosystems would you invest in?
That's a difficult question. I think I would invest it in Nigeria, because this is the ecosystem I've spent the most time with.
Mm-hmm.
I was fortunate to work with a Nigerian company. We built a fund for Nigerian agricultural startups.
Mm-hmm.
And there, I think I would have a good network to invest that money in small businesses where I think they have the potential to grow within the market, but also achieve some like purposeful businesses that really change real problems. Because I think a lot of startups in those countries have to solve real problems. Food prices are really high. Access to market is really difficult. Access to finance is really difficult. So the problems they have to solve are not niche, and they're not one part in the supply chain. Sometimes they have to fix the entire supply chain, which makes it very difficult, but also, if they're successful, very impactful.
Yeah. So that sounds like there's a lot of innovation happening in those ecosystems. Is it right?
Yeah, a lot of innovation. It's hard because you have a very innovative entrepreneurs, but if you want to solve problems, for example, for farmers who sometimes don't have a mobile phone, they have a phone, but maybe not with an app, so you can't build an app. So you have to integrate SMS. So you have to combine high-tech innovation with low-tech problems, which makes it very challenging, but also very exciting what kind of entrepreneurs have been able to solve some of these problems and are successful.
Oh, this is a good topic related to your enterprise. So we looked it up, Klajib's Farms Enterprises. What is it about? Tell us more.
Yeah, so during my time in Ghana, there are entrepreneur opportunities everywhere. Everyone who's been on the continent, I think, has seen this. And in Ghana, I was very fortunate to meet an amazing person who is very knowledgeable about the agricultural sector, and him specifically about cattle. And we had a lot of conversations about, okay, what do people really need to build enterprises? What do people really need to build sustainable business models? And I wanted to do something in a rural area because the cities are very tight, they're competitive, they're also a bit more complex, in my opinion. So I asked him, what do you think we need to start a business? And he said, let's buy some cattle, let's feed them, and let's sell them during Ramadan, because he's a Muslim, and during Ramadan they always slaughter a cow at the end, and prices are very high at that time. So that was the basic idea of how we started that business.
So you looked at a problem and then you found a solution for that problem that you identified.
Correct.
What was the motivation behind founding a company in Africa?
The first time I went to Ghana, I saw so many opportunities and I met so many amazing people. And it was a combination of a bit of being naive, I think, a bit being bold, and meeting the right people. Like the person I did this business with is someone I trust, and I've been having a relationship with this person for a long time. And I think this combination of curiosity, naivety, boldness, and just going for it made me build this company, and I don't regret taking this decision. We shouldn't see African countries as a place where you just go and help.
Yeah.
I think we should see them as business partners, as future markets, as future places of innovation.
Yeah.
And I cannot convince anyone, or I cannot convince you, if I don't do it myself. So I was like, okay, let me try this myself. And what I've been trying to do with the Nigerian business partners is to invest in these kind of small-scale agriculture cooperatives, companies, to see, okay, what model do we need to give companies or small-scale companies the chance to scale? Because a lot of the problems that agriculture companies have is access to finance, and that's something I've been trying to work on, and it's very complex. We fail sometimes, but we also learn a lot through our investment approaches and finding the right partners.
What is the right partner for you?
Honestly, I have not thought about this question. I think, of course, trust plays a big role, but it's more like trust doesn't come from. I think find it hard to put it on one criteria. It's relationships I've built over a long time and observing how we interact, and of course, through 2 continents, this is even more difficult to find right partners. I mean, you two started a company together now, and you're living in 2 cities, and that's already hard.
Yeah.
So you can imagine if 2 people live in 2 continents and with 2 completely different cultural backgrounds, we don't speak our first language with each other. So it's something that we constantly learn from, and makes it very exciting, but also sometimes very hard. And that's how I find the right partners, that where both sides really want to try to work on this relationship so that the business thrives as well.
I can really relate to this because I also started a couple of businesses with very diverse people. And especially having a business with somebody from an African country, but then also another religion, then another gender. I mean, there's so many perspectives of diversity, right? And I feel like on the one hand, it is super advantageous because you're different. You can have different target groups. You can understand the people. You have more opportunities. But then also there's also a con side. Just to give an example, one of my Muslim co-founders, he didn't work on Fridays.
Obviously, yeah.
And I didn't work on Sundays, you know? And then you have 2 days less a week where you can work. It's a simple example just to understand the differences.
I think I learned a lot through the different perspectives, and I think I questioned my own narratives, my own assumptions over and over again. But I think it's been a journey, and I'm really happy I took that decision, honestly.
Do you have an example for an assumption where you were like surprised a little bit about your thoughts about a certain situation or circumstances?
Yeah, we had one investment in Nigeria where we took in a grantor. So there was someone who said, I really want you to invest in this project. I will guarantee for this amount of the investment.
Okay.
And I was like, I've never heard about this. Like, where does this concept come from? That someone will vouch for something that they're not in the company themselves.
Was he a cousin or why?
No, he was someone who was from that community and who wanted to help us to reinvest in his community. And he believed in the people. And that's a concept, and also trying to draw up a contract between 3 different parties, and then the different the different assumptions and expectations from this project to combine that was an interesting experience. But yeah, I'm glad we did that. It was a new model that we tested, and we're open for it again because it worked well.
That's really cool. Jakob, I also want to ask you, throughout your journey,
Yes.
I mean, you founded not only this business, also other businesses. You have been involved in other startups in terms of being a fund a manager and stuff like that. Talking about turning points, which was an obstacle like a perceived obstacle that you had throughout your journey? Which was the biggest obstacle?
There has been a lot of obstacles, a lot of tiny ones where you constantly have to redecide, do you want to invest your time and money in these kind of businesses? And it's not like like having a private life and having businesses and having sometimes full-time jobs is an easy combination to manage, and it's a constant obstacle to prioritize your time. And I think that's a very normal obstacle for all founders, but that was a huge obstacle for me as well.
Why was it a big obstacle?
Because it constantly challenges your assumptions and your expectations from these businesses. Because in the short term, for most entrepreneurs, you won't make a lot of money in the beginning. You won't get a lot of results, but you have to invest a lot. And I think that's very challenging to constantly take the decision to reinvest your time for something that might fly in like 5 years or 10 years.
I think it's super right what you say, and like comparing it to the state of mind people in our age have nowadays, it's super different. Because we, on social media, that's at least my feeling, we get to tell that it's super easy to make business and you can make passive income, you can become a millionaire. It's super easy going, and because you have all of those influences. And so I understand the point, but maybe people that are younger, they think about it differently. How would you argument about it? Why does it take time to invest? Why is it the case that sometimes you have to wait until your investment is blooming?
Yeah, I think we're now with all this like micro trading, or like there are opportunities that are very fast paced, but that's why a lot of times I don't say I have a startup. That's why a lot of times I say I have a business, because it's a long-term investment, and it's something that I want to build sustainably. I don't want to create a hype about something I do, and then the hype goes up and things are moving, and then when the hype is gone, everything dies. So I think it's worth it to build these sustainable businesses because you learn so much from it. Like, I don't think I would do the kind of job I do now, advising entrepreneurs, working with funds, being this like intercultural bridge between two countries, without having this experience. I wouldn't have the confidence to do this. And I think the things I learned in terms of business planning, in terms of what is your MVP, how do you adapt your business model to the market, without these experience. So I think it's really worth it. And I think it taught me more than my master's or something like that.
For sure. You talked about sustainable business. It's an interesting, it's interesting wording. Maybe you can tell me what you mean by that and how does it differ from like a normal business?
I think a sustainable business for me is not in the terms of only environmental sustainability. It's more like in the social sustainability. So a lot of the businesses that I don't want to create businesses that run on exploitation or run on something that's makes the situation worse. So sustainability for me is that there's organic growth, so that needs to be growth, because if it's a successful model, then there is potential for growth. But there's also social sustainability and an environmental sustainability to make the business in different areas growing.
If I might compare it to different ecosystems, would you say that in Nigeria, for example, you have seen more sustainable businesses, so-called, than, for example, in the German ecosystem?
I think what's very interesting now is that with my current job, we work a lot with like SMEs in Germany, like the family-run, family-owned businesses that think in generations, that think in long-term investment, that think in decades and not years. And then in a lot of Nigerian businesses, there are two different ones. Of course, there are more, but these are two that I think are relevant for this question. There's this startup that thinks in a very short term and that they want to create quick turnover, they want to grow. But there's also family-run businesses that are a bit smaller, that are the local SMEs. And I think there's more that we have in common that we actually think we do. So there's a lot of potential and values that we can work on together as a base for partnership. But of course, there's also some differences in that we can learn from entrepreneurs from Nigeria or from Ghana that could make our a bit slow German SMEs a bit quicker and more agile and more innovative. So I think it's actually a very good match that we could create if people look a bit beyond the borders and beyond their stereotypes and beyond their perceptions about some of these countries. So I think there's a lot of potential to collaborate, and that's just something I've been working on now for a year, and it's super interesting to see what's happening and what works and what also doesn't work.
When I was working in Africa, in many African countries, like for example Rwanda, my investors were asking me, what do you mean in the business model it's called that they spend 20% for miscellaneous? Like, what does it even mean, you know? And it's a word in English that means you spend the money to pay people to get certain information, because it's a different way of doing business. It's something that wouldn't be allowed in Germany. You wouldn't pay, I don't know, the restaurant to give you more food in that way, you know? It's more like, it's a very, like the way they spend the money and for which purposes is very different. Would you agree?
Yeah, like we would call this consulting fees.
Yeah, consulting fees.
We would call this getting access to information, getting access to networks, getting access to partners.
Yes.
And there is just labeled a bit differently, which, you just have to understand. But,
Jakob, what's a decision you've made in the past that shaped basically the next 10 years?
I mean, 10 years ago, I went to Ghana for a year to live with a Ghanaian family for a year.
Wow.
And there, my curiosity has led me all the way to where I'm now, to study African development studies and to go abroad again. And I think that was the main decision that I took that changed a lot there.
Jakob, is there a standard belief or mindset about success in the different ecosystem where you went, where you were, what you bring back to Germany?
Yeah, there actually is. I think success in our society is more defined as individuals. We have very individualistic society, and most entrepreneurs I met on the continent are more thinking about their community. So if one entrepreneur is successful there, they make sure that the community is successful. And I think that's something we had before with like German enterprises being a bit more social, but now it's more individualistic. And there, I think bring this community and the social aspect of the business is something where I think we can learn a lot from that.
That's a very nice aspect about the community. What is another factor of community? Like how when a startup in Nigeria becomes successful, do they give half the money then to the village, or how does it work?
No, but most people or most businesses have people who are dependent on that person.
Yeah.
So one person is responsible for more people. And I think in Germany we say, okay, the state or the government or someone else is responsible for taking care of so many people. And in, for example, Nigeria, the state is not that strong. So it's the entrepreneurs who take care of a lot of things. And for example, when a Nigerian startup is successful, there's a company called Flutterwave, which is a very successful Nigerian startup. And most of those founders or people who were in that company, they founded other startups and created more jobs. And so it had this scaling and community effect to create more.
Unfortunately, we have to come to the end of the podcast. And how we close always the podcast is to ask about the so-called gold challenge. So we want to bring something actionable that people that see and listen can do right away, even like right now or tomorrow morning. And the question that goes to you would be, what's that one thing, that one habit or challenge you would love our listeners to try out right now?
There are a lot of challenges I have, so I'll try to break it down. One challenge would be, I don't know which field they're in, but I would say try to find, I'm very sure, your business model somewhere on the continent. There will be an entrepreneur or who has done something similar. Try to listen to their podcast, to their TED Talk, look at their website, try to get something, because there's someone on the other side of the world, not only Africa, but also in South America, who is solving similar problems. And maybe you can learn, maybe you can just have an exchange. You can always get something, or at least that's my experience, from each other's experiences, each other's networks. And then, of course, like, go to a restaurant, listen to the music, try to think your business not only within Germany or Europe, think bigger, because there's so much more we can learn, and we can work together and see entrepreneurs on the other side of the world as partners. I think that would be my challenge.
So don't be afraid of competition and try out new things.
Correct. Thanks,
Beautiful,
Mark. Perfectly put.
No, that's really cool. I like the fact that we have to think bigger. If people want to think big and they want to learn from you personally, how can people find you?
You can reach out to me via LinkedIn, and I'm sure I can share my email or some way to contact me. And I'm really looking forward to working with everyone, because I think there's a lot we can partner on. And if you're able to think bigger, let's go for it.
Maybe the last shout out that you want to make, how can people support you in your vision to connect those ecosystems we've been talking about?
I mean, if you have any idea about how to grow it, or if you just want to learn more about what I've been doing, and maybe there's some idea that pops into your mind, let's talk about it. I'm very open, and collaborating is a huge part of business. It's not only competition. So I think that's a way how to support me in my vision.
Yeah.
And maybe you're also interested in investing in the African ecosystem, either through partnering with a business there or learning more about the startups that are there. I think there's so much to do, and whatever it is,
Nice.
I will try my best to help you.
I love that.
And Jakob, what is the last statement you want to make?
My last statement would be just to be open, be curious, and try to learn from other people. I think that's so important, and it's a continuous journey in life, and I hope to learn more. So that would be my last statement.
Awesome. Let's go learn from others, guys. Thank you so much, Jakob.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for
Good
having me. It
success.
was a pleasure.
Yes. Have a good one.
You too.
Ciao.
Let's go.
Guys, 1,
2,
3.
3. Meh.
Legend shines so bright. Welcome to In and Go, where every dream takes flight.